Welcome to Deep Cuts, the bonus episode of the Scott Sigler Slices fiction podcast, where a sci-fi author and an audiobook narrator discuss things and stuff in the world of fiction and pop culture. I am Scott Sigler, sci-fi horror author, known affectionately far and wide as the future Dark Overlord.
And I am A.B. Sigler, audiobook narrator and publisher at Empty Set Entertainment. And tonight, we're talking about what makes a compelling villain.
A reminder, this is a bonus episode in the Scott Sigler Slices feed, not part of any particular story. You don't have to listen to this to know what's going on with the tale we're currently telling, but we think you'll like this peek behind the storyteller's curtain.
All right, you want to get into it?
Yeah, let's get into it.
Let's do it to it.
Okay.
All right, so there are things that make a compelling villain, but I think most people don't always identify with the villain at first. So I wanted to talk about it because you write heroes and villains. So let's start with why we need a compelling villain.
As I mentioned in the hyperbolic open, if you don't have a villain that challenges your let's go to antagonist and protagonist, even though the title of this is what makes a compelling villain, because I'm sure we'll get to at some point. Every villain is the hero of their own story. Mm-hmm. That's an old trope that resonates and comes along. Yes, everyone's a hero of their own story. So we have an antagonist and a protagonist. The protagonist would be the Lukes and the Barbies and the Indies. The antagonist would be the Vaders and I guess the Barbies, because everybody in the Barbie movie is a Barbie. So, and you go on from there. We see the heroism. We only see the heroism if there's a challenge from the villain. If there's an antagonist that gets in the way of the protagonist getting to the protagonist's goal, or the antagonist brings forth a situation in which the protagonist must respond to that call and deal with the situation that has come up. Sometimes fictional villains help exercise real life pain or anger or sadness. So one of the things
that's a really important
one of the things that can make a compelling villain is you almost find excuses for the antagonist's behavior or the villain's bad behavior. Yes, he does want to destroy the world, but gosh, his childhood was just terrible growing up as an indentured servant in
his
Kamchatka.
brother ate every single marshmallow in the Lucky Charms.
And his sister...
How could he not be a serial killer?
His sister killed his brother and made him for stew. How do you deal with that?
And I do want to point out in the chat room, Joshua Loya on the chat room on Facebook says, without Joker, there just isn't a Batman. And I do believe that's true. He has to have something to rally against.
Bring that up a little bit. There we go. Okay. And
so I want to know a little bit about why a compelling villain is important to you and who a compelling villain might be for you.
Well, you've got, again, we're going antagonist, protagonist, right? And the most egregious one to come out with right out of the gate, because obviously this would be a villain by any sane person's standard, is Hannibal Lecter from Silence of the Lambs, right?
Sure.
And that is literally a serial killer who eats other human beings. So how do you make that a compelling character? Well, Thomas Harris, the author, number one, made him extraordinarily intelligent, more intelligent than the people around him, including when he has been caught and he is already in prison. And he is playing games with the other characters because he's mentally superior to everyone else in the room. And Thomas Harris is a way of making you, the reader, know you don't know where Hannibal Lecter is going, but you have a feeling that Hannibal Lecter is the smartest person in the room. Thomas Harris is so good at it because he's smarter than the author. That is one of the things that makes it extremely compelling. And the other thing that makes Hannibal compelling is he actually was very interested and invested in his own patients. Now, some of those people, he realized they were killers too, and he manipulated them to go kill for him and manifest them. But he had other patients that he actually healed. He was a very accomplished person. It's a dichotomy often is what it is with an antagonist. You've got this very bad part, what society would consider as very bad part, and then they do something else where they're extraordinarily talented, extraordinarily gifted, or they're actually literally doing good. Kingpin from Daredevil and Marvel Comics is a great example, the TV show.
Yeah.
Kingpin is a crime lord, he's a boss, etc. He's also making that Hell's Kitchen much better place to live for the average people.
I want to point out, can I get this? Can I Get
Can
that
you what?
back. Can I get this back a little? Can we have
Yes.
the mouse here so we can
Sure.
both use it?
Yes.
Sorry about that, you guys. I do want to point out a comment in the chat room from
Okay,
Steve
I got to stop.
Bloomfield.
Got to stop for a second. So if you're watching this on YouTube after the fact, we have made this its own show now. It used to be part of our weekly live stream read. If you see us do this, if we snap twice, that means we screwed something up. We want to go back. And our engineer, Steve Rickenberg, when he takes the audio out of this Turner podcast, he'll just get rid of the bad part. But if you're watching video, you get the good with the bad.
Yeah, you get that peek behind the curtain. So I'm snapping back in here. I do want to point out a chat room comment from YouTube, which is from Stephen Bloomfield. In my opinion, every character in Breaking Bad was a villain. Not all the same level of bad, but had some level of psychopathy. And I'm going to challenge you for just a second there, because this is the conversation that we're having. Everybody is the hero of their own story, and everybody who's watching the story evaluates who's the hero. And I will argue that the wife, played by Anna Gunn, she literally was married to a sociopath and eventually broke, right? I don't think she was the villain. I think she was trying to keep her family together, trying to hold everything together. And then eventually she's like, great, I'm absolutely married to a sociopath. I'm wilding out. I'm not sure she was, but I see your point in that she was a little bit bad, but I don't think she was a villain.
In another way to look at that is she is an antagonist to Walter White. And Walter White's own diagnosis of a life of a terminal illness, the significant needs of his family, and a spouse that's not really paying attention to him or knowing what's going on with him mentally. Those things all combine to drive him to make him break bad and go and do something else. So yes, the Anna Gunn's character in that is absolutely an antagonist that makes the protagonist of the show, Walter White, who is a villain.
Absolutely. Also in the Facebook chat room, Vaughn Lowe says, can a villain be something like the tornado in Twister? And we're going to probably not talk too much about that, but I will say I think yes, but only for me anyway, in the sense that if there is something that brings antagonist and protagonist together, like the Twister in Twister, or the flood in deep water, or whatever, something that is coming ashore, something that is going to threaten everybody, the outbreak and outbreak, that sets up a chance for two things to happen, I think. For the antagonists to be good, like save a kid as they're running out of running away from a rogue wave or something. And then also for the protagonist to be selfish or bad, so that makes them more human. I think that happens a lot. And my favorite example of this, I'm going to admit, is San Andreas. It is all the way down a terrible movie. And I do say all the way down on purpose for San Andreas. It's a terrible movie, but it is also a fantastic character study, I think.
San Andreas is a fantastic character study.
I think so, yeah.
Yep. Okay, I'm confused now. Did you want to take a break now?
No.
Okay.
We have
all right.
7 more minutes.
Let's go to the next one.
Yeah. So speaking of what is a compelling villain and why we need compelling villains, I want to know who are compelling villains for you. And I know you mentioned Hannibal Lecter. Anybody else?
Well, Darth Vader is a very compelling villain. I will go out on a limb that you can have Han Solo, Princess Leia, Luke Skywalker, Obi-Wan Kenobi, R2-D2, C-3PO. No one would give two wet shits about any of them if it wasn't for Vader. And yes, I'm aware, you goddamn nerds, that Vader's not the one actually pulling the strings, right? But without the presence of Darth Vader being the relatively omnipotent antagonist who is this lethal, magical threat all the time, there is no Star Wars. So Darth Vader is obviously a huge, very, very compelling villain. And remember, when the show starts out, Darth Vader is starting from episode 4, 5, and 6. Or episode 4, at least, the big one, Star Wars. He's just a bad guy. He's straight up a murdering bad guy, right? There's nothing really compelling about him other than his dope outfit, and he's got magic force skills. It's not until you start to go through the whole series and see the full tapestry of what Lucas and company created that you're like, that's a very, very compelling character. He's sort of doing the best he can and making terrible choices along the way. But so he is a great one.
I love this because that's such an important point for this conversation. And I wanted to talk about pro antagonists that you feel are compelling, and then ask, okay, so do you, Scott Sigler, do you like Darth Vader? Do you like Hannibal Lecter? And if you like them, do you also identify with them?
100% on both counts. Sorry, that's disturbing for you, seeing as we're married and we sleep together every night. But Vader is one of my favorite characters of all time because he is the powerhouse that drives that entire franchise. And for me, now I'm getting older, there's definitely a drop-off when we go from James Earl Jones and Vader as the primary to Adam Driver as the primary antagonist in the series. Adam Driver's a wonderful actor, probably a great guy. I am not compelled in the least by his character arc. Nothing about that character arc appeals to me. So Vader, I'm a huge, huge fan of. I have a bass guitar named after Darth Vader. And
one more question before we move off Star Wars. What about Palpatine?
Palpatine is absolutely nothing to me. It is, yes.
Does Palpatine move to the big bad role as Vader, I want to say gets humanized. I don't know what the right phrase is there. Gets protagonized? Does Palpatine become just the general big bad? I
really think that Palpatine, for me, as a person who grew up watching 4, 5, and 6, and then the other ones, Palpatine is, I don't care. I don't give a crap about Palpatine at all. Now, part of that is because when we moved into the prequels, I was older, I knew more about the world, and you could see the transparent politics analogy that Lucas and company were using Palpatine for. And I'm like, okay, yeah, I got it. And now, to be fair, I've gone back and watched the original Star Wars multiple times. I'm not sure I would have enjoyed it as much as I did when I was very young and saw it if I saw it for the first time right now. So Palpatine didn't do it for me. Vader absolutely did it for me. And, Hannibal Lecter, it's not just me, that resonates with so many people. Think about everybody else in that show. There's no one that even matters unless Hannibal Lecter is there. Jodie Foster's character, sure, you could make a series out of that. And many people have made many series, but that is a franchise in which it's the antagonist, the compelling antagonist that made the whole thing.
Taking a programming break, I will say, can you mute the transitions? Because the shawarma went live.
I didn't hear it.
Yeah, but Sean did.
Okay. I'm sorry. Well, you guys watching the replay, we left some things on. We're very sorry about that.
Sorry about that.
Actually, we'll do this. Boom. Yes. If you're watching this after the fact, this is the first one we've done as a separate show. So it's going to be bumpy. It's going to be a little bit of a bumpy ride, y'all.
If you happen to be listening to the podcast and you heard that...
They won't hear it on the podcast.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Okay, great. Then never mind,
Steve,
you guys.
just cut around that.
Okay.
We'll do the best we can.
We do have a couple of questions. We do have a couple of questions from the chat room. I wanted to... sorry, it's up there. I don't know how to... Can you scroll it?
Yes, I can. You come over here and you just go over it. See this? Bring it right back up.
Okay, so let's go. Okay. I'm snapping back in. So we do have a great question from the chat room from David Lamb on Facebook. He asks, who does Scott consider his most compelling antagonist?
Oh, as a creator, my most compelling antagonist? I will say, for those of you listening at home, or what the chat room is something, because we do this live every Wednesday at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. You could join us in the chat room, watch us live, fumble through this whole thing at twitch.tv/Scott Sigler, youtube.com/Scott Sigler, or facebook.com/Scott Sigler. We would love to have you join us. So what is my most compelling villain? I think this will sound a little braggadocious, right? But Rex from Nocturnal is right up there with Angus Cool from Earth Core, from the sun symbol duology. Greedock the Splithead in the Galactic Football League is a fantastic villain.
So I was wondering, you said I didn't think about Rex, but I also did think about Dr. Cool. But I have a question for you.
Okay.
Are the aliens in Atagina villains?
So Atagina is the setting for Aliens Phalanx, which is a media tie-in novel with the Aliens franchise. And that book is called, the book's called Aliens Phalanx. Loved writing that book, canonical book for aliens for now, because you don't know what these organizations are going to do. So in Aliens Phalanx, we are on a planet that is a primitive pre-industrial culture with humans living in tunnel systems across this planet. And the characters, everybody young is forced to be a runner to go from this set of tunnels to this set of tunnels to this set of tunnels to trade medicine, to trade information, to try and keep the dying levels of humanity alive. Because each tunnel system sort of has one thing that the others do not. Of course, every time they leave the tunnel system, they are in danger of being caught by the demons, which is how they consider the xenomorphs to be, and carried away to Smoke Mountain, Black Smoke Mountain. We know what happens there. If you know the franchise, you know what happens there. And the really big threat, though, is that they get trailed, and them doing their job and not paying attention and not sacrificing themselves for the greater tribe, they're going to bring a xenomorph back, and then the xenomorphs will find out where one of these human tunnels are, and then all hell breaks loose. Are they antagonists? Or are they compelling villains?
Right. So the title of this episode was, Are They Compelling Villains?
Yes.
I do appreciate that those are antagonists. I understand that. But are they, are they compelling villains, and are they antagonists both, I think?
I think that they are compelling villains, compelling antagonists. But in that book, it's because if you are the kind of person who will buy an Aliens novel, you probably know a bunch of the lore. You've probably seen Aliens, the other movies. So you understand the life cycle. So that is a situation in which you, the reader, have knowledge that the characters in the book do not. So as the reader, you understand they're doing what nature programmed them to do, and therefore they are not just straight up evil. But if you're a character in that book, they have no idea there's a life cycle going on, and they are nothing but just shiny black evil through and through.
Yeah, and that is I hadn't thought of it that way. So they are definitely compelling villains in your story.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't necessarily mean that they are evil from
Correct.
every other perspective, but in that perspective, they absolutely are.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's fantastic. I hadn't actually, until you said it that way, I hadn't thought about it that way.
So let me touch back on that question you asked earlier. Angus Cool is the antagonist in Earthcore, my novel Earthcore. And he is the smartest cat in the room all the time. He has several personality traits that get in his way and prevent him from just dominating his situations in. But that raw intelligence and the calculating nature, you as the reader know, holy crap, this guy's going to come up with something. This is not over at any particular phase. And Rex in Nocturnal is a great one because he's very young. He is ostracized. He, like we talked about earlier, the antagonist growing up in a difficult situation, Rex is an only child living with his grandma who pays no attention to him, who watches TV all day and drinks all day. And he is alone and bullied all the time. He has no support, no one around him. And then at some point, Rex discovers he has this certain set of skills, and it carries him into another place where he becomes welcomed with open arms by his found family. So what he does in the book, some would consider absolutely evil and malicious and black-hearted, but from his perspective, it's not. He has found his family and he's enjoying his new life.
And I love that because just like you said about Hannibal Lecter, there are moments where clearly Rex is a put upon young human being just trying to get by.
Correct.
He's doing only what he instinctually can do to survive sometimes. And yet those things become objectively problematic. At the same time, he's objectively still a good character in his own mind. We do have to take a quick break. If you have a minute, please listen to any ads that pop up. There's only one or two, and it really helps the show. And we'll be back right after this.
So while we're in the break here, you guys watching at home, or you guys watching the YouTube or Facebook after the fact, we're trying to figure out how to handle this because our primary business is we're podcasters. So this audio will be all gussied up, neat, everything clipped out, looking good. The video goes up on live, and it'll always be in our youtube.com/Scott Sigler, facebook.com/Scott Sigler, twitch.tv, etc. We got to figure out how to have another person who works with us download this, edit it, clip out all the bad parts, re-upload it as a regular video. It's super complicated to us. Of course, I'm not a compelling antagonist because I'm not that smart. So it's complicated
we appreciate you bearing with us,
me. Complicated to me.
Are you ready to snap back in?
I am ready to go. Let's go. You ready?
All right. Yeah, you're the one who's next.
A little burp. Sorry. Oops. Try again. Welcome back to Deep Cuts.
This episode, we're talking about what makes a compelling villain. Now, a couple of hard questions. You want to take some? I think we should take some questions from the chat room first because there's a handful of good ones if you want to
Do you
look
want to
at
scroll
them.
back up? Or you
Yeah,
got
a little bit. One question that the chat room has had for you is to talk about Chelsea from Pandemic, your book Pandemic.
Oh, yes.
And was she a protagonist or an antagonist?
Pandemic is the third book in the Infected trilogy. The series is Infected, Contagious, and then Pandemic. And in Pandemic, there is a young girl named Chelsea who related to Rex we talked about earlier with Nocturnal, but a very different set of circumstances, winds up getting an enormous amount of power and uses it in a way that perhaps only someone who isn't mature at all and is a little kid would use that power. So does that make her a compelling villain or a compelling antagonist? I believe it does, because if Chelsea was even 5 years older, perhaps 10 years older, much of the trauma that occurs in the novel Pandemic probably wouldn't, because she would have a greater perspective on the world and be able to control some of the things that are happening to her.
This is my favorite part of this conversation so far, because it reveals that a lot of times the thing that damages you is your humanity.
Mm-hmm.
In this world, in the real world. A lot of times someone might be thinking they're doing the right thing, and that's one thing. If they're fully grown adults, they're fully fledged adults, all that stuff. But a lot of times, if you're struggling to survive, you may or may not realize that the things that you are doing are not only hurting other people, which might be your intention, but are also damaging your own chances for survival. That happens over and over and over again in the real world. And the thing about Chelsea is that she's just a little human kid. That's her biggest flaw, is that she's too young to handle this. She hasn't had enough life experience to manage what's happening to her, and she's doing the best she can.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is a really compelling part of this protagonist-antagonist conversation, because, Scott started by saying bringing up the idea that everybody is the hero of their own story.
Mm-hmm.
But that's how that plays in real life. You don't think about the decisions you made 5 years ago that led you to this place where you're making bad decisions again and again and again. You can't look at the whole picture. You have to look at what you're doing right now. And often everybody else is looking at the big picture, and it's not going well for you.
Lost Marbles 25 in the chat room says, but if Chelsea wasn't so young, would she have had the imagination to come up with ways to help the triangles? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either.
That's the way I wrote it. It kind of focused on the story we had right there and went through the squicky work of, a kid who's like under 10 being the antagonist in a story where many, 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 many people die. As difficult work as a writer, it was kind of hard to do.
Speaking of difficult work Speaking of difficult work as a writer, I want to ask you about a antagonist in one of your stories, or several of your stories,
Mm-hmm.
who I personally believe is an antagonist, and that's Kayla Myers.
Okay.
I think Kayla Myers is broken and human, but still broken, but she is pretty much bad through and through. The only one who thinks that she's not is herself. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Kayla
maybe?
Myers is a character in Earthcore, one of my favorite characters, because she is an ex-NSA agent. And in the sun symbol duology, the Earthcore Mount Fitzroy, the NSA does a lot of things that you never hear about. And there are people right now, conspiracy theorists, like the NSA does all this weird shit. There's secret agencies. I made my secret agency a different part of the NSA. She was a outstanding operator for the NSA, pretending to do basic signals intelligence, which she can do, which starts the whole book, is her basic skills as an NSA agent. But she also was a little bit more than that. And she was very skilled at torture and extracting information, finding people with information, extracting the information from them. She elevated her game to do so in a way that even people in the NSA were like, you know where you are out. You're lucky we don't put a bullet in your head. So why she is a compelling antagonist, compelling villain, is all she really ever wanted to do was serve her country, serve the NSA, and be the best agent she possibly could be, and make those above her look like rock stars for putting her in that position. I often compare it to the people who came back from Vietnam, people who come back from foreign wars. Were like, when I was over there, I knew who I was. I knew what I had to do. I knew what my job was. I come back here, I have no fucking idea what to do with any of this. That was her. She also grew up in an absolutely horrible home situation that I won't give you any spoilers, but it's real bad. And something that a lot of young women, frankly, go through, not just in America, but all over the world and all throughout history. Mm-hmm. Except she had a certain cut to her jib, if you will, where Kayla Myers is the kind of character, she's not just going to take it. If you are going to come at her, she's either going to take you out or die trying. And that force of will, that dedication, commitment, that savagery, all of those translated into her career in the NSA, which winds up putting her in the catbird seat for this Earthcore book. So yes, she's incredibly compelling to me. Another one, super difficult and squicky to write. It's very uncomfortable to write her as well.
The question I asked, or I meant to ask if I didn't, is a little bit different than that, which is she truly evil now? Because for me personally, I feel like everything that Scott said is true. She had this horrible upbringing. She was sort of forced to do what she had to do. And she lived through that. But she also trained herself to be that person. She continued to grow into that, where a lot of other people kind of like, well, I might need some help here. And she never did that.
I'm very sorry.
Yeah.
Our mouse is taking a shit, and I can't move it. So I got distracted from that question.
That's okay. I was trying.
What the fuck with this piece of garbage? Goddamn! Like it will only go up and up. There we go.
Okay. Sorry about that, you guys.
You guys watching at home after the fact. Could you ask me
vamping.
that? You were vamping?
Yes.
Oh, that's great. You want to snap back in? Okay.
Yep, for sure. So I do want to ask a little bit of a different question here.
Okay.
Which is, are there protagonists who are probably antagonists, but they're the main character? And for me, I have two specifically that I wanted to ask about, but I'm not sure if you have any that you wanted to bring up yourself.
Yeah, fuck Tom Cruise in War of the Worlds. Seriously, the fuck's wrong with you? These aliens are trying to find a place to live, bro. They're excommunicated from the galaxy. Their planet's been blown up. They're dying, Tom. They're dying. And they come to our planet to try and find a place to propagate and live. And you gotta fucking slaughter them with your little kids' boogers. No, Tom Cruise, you are an evil protagonist. There's one. Mm-hmm. If I had more time, I could think of more. But when you think about any of these alien invasion stories or these monster killing stories, like the Underworld series, yeah, the person stopping the vampires from being what vampires are, not what vampires choose, what they are. The vampire slayer is an evil antagonist to the fucking vampires.
Mm-hmm. Is your story In Memoriam out in the world yet? I think it is.
In Memoriam, yes.
It's a vampire story. Is that combat monsters? Not combat
No,
monsters.
it's not combat monsters. It's I believe In Memoriam is a story in Weird Tales.
That's it. Yes,
I
and
think
it
the
is
most recent issue of Weird Tales, unfortunately, I don't have that right in front of me. I can't explain it to you. But Weird Tales has a story that involves vampires. And go ahead.
So there, Scott has a story called In Memoriam, which will end up at some point reverting back to us and in one of our color collections. And it is a story about a vampire and a vampire hunter. And I won't spoil it any further than that, but it is one of my very favorite of Scott's recent works because it twists this idea of protagonist, antagonist, hero of your own story, choosing to be the villain in your own story. It twists all that up together in this pitch perfect way for this podcast. So if you haven't seen it, consider In Memoriam from Weird Tales. If you can Google that, you can probably read it electronically. It is exactly this beautiful twisty moment.
Yeah. And let's go back to Aliens, the franchise for which I have the most love, most fandom. It's my favorite thing that I've ever seen is the movie Aliens. The Colonial Marines and Ripley are a bunch of fucking jagoffs. Come on, dude. These aliens are literally, their hive is gone. They're just trying to survive, bro. They're just trying to survive. And you come in here with all your guns and your thermite grenades and your fancy flying machines, and all you do is try to make them extinct. You are genocidal, Colonial Marines. Genocidal a-holes. I feel that you are a compelling antagonist, but to my protagonist, the Xenomorphs and the Queens, bless them, bless these Disney princesses, that you guys are a bunch of jagoffs. I don't like you.
So we did have a comment earlier when we were discussing Aliens, which we're doing, or Aliens Failings, which we're doing again. Oh, I'm so sorry. We had a comment earlier in the YouTube chat room when we were discussing Hannibal and those movies from Martin Evans. And he said there were multiple interchangeable Clarices, Jodie Foster and Julianne Moore, and multiple Will Grahams as well. But there was only and could only be one Hannibal. And
correct.
That is a super compelling comment. That is the thing that drives you to want to watch more or read more, things like that.
Let's take another couple of questions from the chat room. David Lamb says, how about Anne Lafferty from The Crypt? Is she an antagonist? No, she is absolutely a protagonist with antagonistic proclivities. But remember, when you are reading from Anne Lafferty's point of view, she is a climber, career climber, doing whatever it takes to get the job done, has a lot of issues going on with her. So that's a complicated one. Chris Grawl in the chat room says, would xenomorphs be considered pests? Chris Grawl, pests do not cut off electricity. And you can say, they're animals, man. They're fucking animals. No, they're not animals, sir. Because I wrote the story, Dangerous Prey, which was in the anthology Aliens Bug Hunt, where I got to write from the point of view of the xenomorphs. Now, you may say, I've been conscripted. You may say, I've been brainwashed by the xenomorphs. And now I'm sympathetic to the xenomorphs. But I believe I will stand by my story.
And I believe that you were never brainwashed. You were always sympathetic to the
I like the
aliens.
bad guys. I love the bad guys. Now, trust me, if I could write a story, if I could write novels where the bad guy just kills all the people and gets the gold and blows up the volcano and all that other shit, I would do that. But publishers won't let me do that shit. The good guys have to fucking win, and this is the hell I live in every day. Do you guys want to do for you people? This is what I do for you people when I write. I just sacrifice and give and I give and I give.
So you actually, if you don't know and you're watching the live stream, we record in Scott's office where he writes every day, where he spends the vast majority of his life in this room. And so I have to ask, are there either protagonists, but mostly antagonists who live in this room with you that you kind of try and figure out? And I'm not talking about a specific character. I'm talking about a type of antagonist that you try and bring to your stories and highlight against your heroes.
Hold on. You guys watching at home, we have a fucking scumbag in the chat room right now that I'm trying to... Guys, stop chatting for 1 second because my mouth is broken. I can't get at this.
Okay, so close, so close. It's okay.
I literally can't. I'm trying to block this piece of shit. That's me dropping the mouse. This
You
is
want me to try?
Yeah, by all means.
Just because, well, just you do this for me a lot of the time, where you kind of help.
Just pull it down. Block. Boom. Hit it.
Add block list. Hit that one. Okay, not the other one.
No, I don't. Because if somebody else add block user on Facebook, dude. Hit it.
I keep trying.
Gosh darn it.
Reloading.
Try the other one. Try the other one. You guys, this is now. Of course, I like. Yeah, go ahead. Whatever you want. Add block list. There we go. Boom.
Okay.
Now she's gone. I'm like, sure, whatever. Why don't you take the mouse? Because you can just magically fucking fix it that I've been trying to do for 5 minutes. Go ahead. She goes like, boop, boop. Work. I'm like, God damn it.
But I have to tell you, before we snap back in, I have to tell you that Scott is, hang on. Can you give me the whole screen here for a second?
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to pull you behind the curtain for a minute. Despite what you might think about his public persona, Scott is actually a very open-hearted, open-minded, friendly partner.
No, it's just lies.
I know. We're pulling behind the curtain. But he genuinely is. He often will be, like, he approaches a lot of situations where he's just like, okay, let's take the information and see what we can do right now. And having to have been in a partnership with me in a business, and then especially in the last 6.5 years where we got together, all that stuff, he has had to do the thing I just did, where I'm like, hey, do you mind if I try? And he's like, sure. That's like maybe the first time that he did that to me. I've done that at least 1,000 times to him. Sure.
That's true.
And back in the beginning, way back in the beginning, I was like, sure, because you're a dude. You think you can do what I can't do? Like exactly the same thing I just did. But it's, sometimes you got your dander up is all.
There have been several times like, can I help with that? I have knowledge in this area. Like, oh, because you have a penis, you think you can do this thing? Like, you know what? I don't have a penis, and I'm just going to gradually back out of the room. But if you can't figure it out, call me.
I'm getting very red.
And sometimes I get the call. I'm like, I can't figure it out. Can you come back in here? Yes. I'm going to put my penis back on. I'm going to come and solve the problem. Except tonight, apparently, to make the mouse work, you had to have a fucking vagina to get it to work. And I understand how frustrating it can be from your perspective now. I'm so mad.
And I'm very red to be that called out. Look at how red I am. All right, we got to get back because we're just about done.
I think we're about done. Sure.
We're definitely done timing wise. So do you just want to end the live stream, or do you want to?
We're live right now. Just go.
All right.
Oh, you want to? Yes, I see what you're saying now. Just knock that out and we'll finish her up.
So the only other thing I want to ask is if there are any other notes, anything that you want to share with us about what you feel like a compelling villain needs to have.
I got to go back. I see a question that you had right there is any heroes or heroines that might be villains? Well, yes, because Maleficent is the hero, protagonist of Maleficent, but she's an evil motherfucker in the other movies. So that's a wonderful thing. You go from taking the antagonist of the villain, and they're so fucking compelling. People are so interested in that disposable bad guy that you wind up being able to make another franchise based on the bad guy.
And for me, that is who is the what's the Marvel with the
Black
Vision?
Widow?
No,
Scarlet Witch.
That is exactly
Scarlet
what
Witch,
you're
yes.
saying.
Mm-hmm.
That I was so surprised by that because I was less familiar with the Marvel cinematic universe than Scott was. And not too long ago, we chronologically watched through the universe. And I was so upset about Scarlet Witch for, I think, the first 3 episodes. And Scott was just like, okay, hang tight. We're watching through, so hang tight. And it took me a while to get it. But that's exactly that point, is that in that, like, you get to sort of see her inside her mind a little bit more. And I'm going to say right now, I'm going on the record right now, I know you guys are not going to like this, I don't ever need a Kayla Myers origin story. I don't need to sit in that stew, me personally.
Dude, it got cut. A couple things to say. The actual Kayla Myers origin story was so disturbing to Penguin Random House. They were like, we are not going to publish this book if you want to put that in there. And I think that if you had read that, you would have a hard time rooting against Kayla Myers. Chris Grawl says, talk about taking the villain and making the franchise, Wicked comes to mind. Absolutely. So we got to talk about one more thing, the villain level of power compared to the hero's level of power.
Oh.
To make a villain really compelling, you can have, like Silence of the Lambs. He's already in prison. He's already been bested. He's already been caught. You've got kind of a relatively equal level of power. Or you go to something like, a Doctor Doom, a Galactus, moving over into the Marvel world, in which the drama comes from our heroes who thought they were all powerful, find out they are insignificantly powerful compared to the big bad. And then the drama in that style of storytelling is, there is no way we can win this. This person is godlike and all powerful. And yet you got to dig deep and you got to kind of figure it out. So in most situations, the antagonist has the majority of the power. And this is for sci-fi and for horror. You think about Jason Voorhees, Freddy Krueger. How are you going to beat Freddy Krueger? Mm-hmm. He has literally, he controls the world of dreams. He has all of the power. And eventually you have to fucking sleep. And then you move over into the thriller world. And in the thriller world, the person who has all the power are the big governments, the Russian government, the US government. Mm-hmm. And the antagonist is usually someone outside of those governments that are trying to accomplish something, or a smaller government against a bigger government. So the power levels fluctuate all over the place, but it's largely, when you set it up, your main antagonist has more power than your main protagonist. Because if it's the other way around, it's not heroic. It's not heroic for Andre the Giant to beat little Mr. T. Yeah, that's a deep cut for you guys way back to the 80s.
I do want to point out that's true for fantasy too, because that's Sauron, right?
Sauron, yeah. Sauron is unbeatable. There's no way you're going to beat Sauron and his giant army of orcs and all of that other stuff. Well, we hope you guys have enjoyed this deep dive into the world of villains. There's so much we didn't even touch. We'll have to come back and try it again sometime. But for now,
I do want, before we end, to say thank you to Sean Dyer for this recommendation. This was a great recommendation and super fun to research and super fun to chat with you guys about.
Really, really appreciate it. But that is it for this episode of Deep Cuts.
Next week, we'll probably continue this conversation and talk a little bit more about actual protagonists versus antagonists.
Yeah, maybe we'll get more into the power level side of things as well. Oops, I screwed that up. If you have an idea or something for one of these deep cuts, or you want to hear us talk about a particular topic, you can email info@emptyset.com. You all smell an awful lot like flowers. We'll catch you in the next episode. Goodbye.
Bye, guys. Thank you.
Don't go anywhere, you bitches.
Yeah, don't go anywhere.
Don't go anywhere, bitches. I tell you, we'll talk about it later, but I finally turned you up in my monitor. Fucking solved so many of my problems.
Oh, good.
Because you look at this, we still have to work on your mic addressing.
I'm with you.
I'm thicker. What? Well, no, you got.
Got
that thickness. I'm pointing to the recording waveforms, but I turned up A's mic in my headphones only, and because I was getting so stressed. I'm like, talk to the mic. That was a good episode. You guys, Steve Lubin says, fun show. Thank you very much. Michael Moore, did you miss the cover reveal? I don't know. Chris says, in the modern world, protagonists use conventional measures and antagonists use asymmetrical warfare.
For sure they do. Yeah, that's a great idea.
That goes back to what I said, which is asymmetrical warfare is a method by which the less powerful can compete against the more powerful. Mm-hmm. So the fucking Avengers use asymmetrical warfare against, who do they fight again? Thanos. The Avengers and Tony Stark use asymmetrical warfare to fight against Thanos. So it really depends on what is the power level. Because the point of a power level at all times is it's always about drama. That's why the vast majority of your karate flicks, your samurai flicks, your Old West gunfights, all of that stuff that comes down to a duel, part of the process of the duel is you have to make sure the antagonist is a serious player. We did that tonight in the episode of Slay. You listen to Slay tonight, if you were there for that live stream, Ice Pick is not to be trifled with. He's a bad motherfucker. Mm-hmm. Now that is important. We're on book 3 in a series, and we've already established Lincoln Franks is one of the top 3 bad motherfuckers on the planet. So I now have to make the number 2 bad motherfucker so much of a bad motherfucker that when Lincoln faces off against him, and if Lincoln wins, you'll be like, of course Lincoln should win. You'll be like, I can't believe he pulled that off.
But you even have moments in this episode from tonight where I will try not to spoil, where
Sorry.
we see Ice Pick have concerns about finances and being able to feed his dependents and things like
That
that.
was Oleus
you know?
Oakbeard. Well, Ice Pick can't
No,
feed his pet. Yeah,
That-
yeah,
that's
you're
what
right.
I'm
You're
saying.
right. You're
Yeah.
right.
And that, for lack of a better phrase, that humanizes the antagonist.
Mhm.
Lost my marbles 25. I know who you are, but if you don't want to post here, would you email info@emptyset and let me know who you are? Because I know you, and you sound so familiar, and I want to know who you are. But I think this is such a compelling thing because as I get older, I've said many times on the cast that I am a person who's been through a lot of therapy, and I'm very grateful for it. And it's easy for me, and it's as I get older, it's easy for me to see myself after I'm an asshole, after I do something shitty. Like it's a shorter time frame before I realize, like, oh, I was dysregulated. I was in my own head. I was feeling sorry for myself. I was feeling threatened. I was feeling something. Used to be, it took me many, many months or many, many years. Now it takes me like 12 to 24 hours to like, I didn't have enough water and I was.
Do you switch from like you're the protagonist and then you wake up next morning like I was the antagonist?
Absolutely.
Fuck.
I have done that so recently.
Yeah, that's a good point. I do
I'm
that a
getting
lot,
red.
too.
I'm getting red again because it literally took me like 6 hours to be like, oh shit, my bad. But you can't do that. Like if you're Thanos, you can't be like, oh my bad, I didn't have enough water yesterday.
Dude, Josh
you can't
Brolin.
do that.
Josh Brolin played that shit so good. I don't give a fuck what Josh Brolin does for the rest of his life.
Yeah,
I
for
thought
sure.
he killed that shit.
For sure.
We did have a couple of things in the chat. Let's see. Hold on one sec. Joshua Loya says Rebels versus the Empire. One X-Wing blows up the Death Star. Talk about that real quick, and then we'll go. That's the power dynamic that we're talking about. When you look back at that in retrospect, this tiny flea of a ship destroys this giant Great Dane of a vessel that can destroy planets. The Death Star is all powerful, controlled by the Empire, which is all powerful, which is Darth Vader, which was all powerful, and yet one X-Wing can take it out. But you got to back it up. First level, how many X-Wings and Y-Wings got blown up in that attack?
Mhm.
I think the casualty rate for the Rebels in that attack was like 90 to 95%.
Mhm.
So it's very similar to a lot of World War II combat where, yes, you have people who have flamethrowers and you have people who have particular armored personnel carriers and particular tanks. And that's Russian, German, and American all. And the casualty rates were 90% for the crews for certain pieces of equipment. So you are sacrificing 90% of your attack force to get that one ship into that one position to get that one crazy shot. So it's not just one X-Wing. Then you back it up further. There's the organization that has to be created for training, for equipping, for supplying, for all the rebel forces, for building fighter craft, supporting fighter craft, moving fuel, moving food, and doing all of this under the nose of the Empire. Huge, huge, dangerous objective. So now you're 2 levels removed. Now you go 3 levels removed. 3 levels removed. The only reason the one X-Wing could destroy the Death Star was because of a bunch of how many Bothans died for this thing. So you're now going back 3 and 4 levels. So is it one X-Wing blows up the Death Star? That seems a discrepancy in power levels. If you follow the story back, it's not at all. It's the culmination of a giant tilting at windmills initiative in a long campaign.
But it's also important to note here, which wasn't relevant to the topic, but is a relevant topic maybe, is yes, that is a little bit David versus Goliath, a little bit in the world that we're watching, unlikely, but that's also the hero's story. That's the hero's quest, right? It's the one, if this doesn't work, we all die. And we have several ramp ups to it, several like, this will work. Oh, that failed. This will. Now there's this all is lost. This is the only thing that can save us. You have to do it. And then we get the hero's journey conclusion, which is different from the compelling villain in realism, in world realism, but is necessary for our storytelling.
Yeah. In Star Wars, the long play of Star Wars, even though I'm not, the most recent products are not for guys like me, right? They're not for dudes of my age. But you look at the long form storytelling before they completely reinvented everything, it is a giant, epic, quest, if you follow the whole through line of episodes 1 through 6, it's a there's a lot going on. That is something I try and emulate in my work, often to my own detriment, which is like with Slay. By Slay novel 5, it's bonkers shit that won't make any sense unless you see all the little pieces that Rob and I put into place along the way. The Crypt, when you get to the Crypt book 5, it is absolutely bonkers crazy bullshit, but it's the foreshadowing. It's the establishing of resources, establishing of campaigns. It's setting up this character who's nothing now to wind up being the Luke down the road. There's all of this work that goes in to long form storytelling. And when I say long form, what I mean is a TV show that goes 5 or 6 or 7 seasons, a movie that has 6 or 7 installments plus other breakouts, a novel series that's 5, 6, 7 books. It is an enormous labor of love to get that together. And Star Wars got that. I think they got that very right. Even though it seems overpowered, when you just watch episode 4 alone, you watch in context with Rogue One. It's a far more satisfying accomplishment that they do to beat the antagonist.
So I think we're probably done for the night. We got some post-production stuff to do here. Thank you guys for hanging out with us. We will see you next week.
Yeah, that's
Anything
about
else?
it. No, that's about it. We're going to work on our mics, which are still a little bit weird, which we can't quite figure out. But other than that,
Steve, I finally made tea for the cast itself, so hopefully
you did
that
not
helps.
have. You had far fewer clicks. Did you notice?
I made the warm tea with honey that you told me to.
There you go. There you go. Let me hide. Oop, shit. Hide this. We'll come back to boom. That did not work for shit. I don't know why that's screwing up. Hold on. Oh, the fucking mouse again. We're going to say goodbye right here. This fucking mouse. I'm going to smash it with a hammer.
That's definitely not going to fix it.
Smash it with a hammer. You guys are all great. I'm going to say goodbye right now. Then you're going to stare at the side of my face while I try and figure out how to shut this guy. Don't goddamn works.
Would you like me to touch it?
No, it's not working. Hey, could you please come over here? Click, just click. You're there. Click. I need you to turn that off. This is such bullshit, you guys. How did you do it before? Come on, no, geez, why are you trying to do that to me?
That?
Yes. Goodbye!